you do a good job within the company, they can actually grab, hold, and even stop disasters from making.
Okay.
They can make timely decision on the spot. For example, one year we have a character who is supposed to be a Vietnamese refugee in the United States and then became the school principal.
Oh.
To me, it is good that you have a Vietnamese refugee, a female Vietnamese refugee. To me, it's good that you have a school principal who is a Vietnamese female refugee. But the character itself was too caricature. His speech was full of accent. His demeanor was very exaggerated, and that is somewhat uncomfortable.
Right.
I was at the position to tell the producer, this character, hey, this character may be problematic. How do you do that? You go and talk to the Asian community, the Vietnamese community, and ask them to view this tape and give you their response. And using that response, I was able to ask the producers to tweak the character so that her demeanor, her speeches were consistent with the character itself. So those are the kind of decisions only when you are within the organization and within the process, the decision-making process, you can make. If you are outside, you can only make a decision post hoc. You have to wait until it's already televised and people start launching complaint, but the decision is already made and you have to take a very long time to revert that decision.
So what do you think about Taiwan's TV programs, the quality and everything, or maybe what we can learn from American TV and Singapore TV even?
Well, because we are commercially supported, even though we have a lot of really great scholars, I think I do respect them. Because we're commercially supported, a lot of time the decisions were made based on economic reasons. Okay. For example, we have so many 24-hour news channels.
Yeah.
Therefore, everyone uses SNG to do timely news. But we all know newsworthiness is more than timeliness. You have to make a decision on whether this piece of news is worthy of public interest. And that's the reason for being for any news organization. In Taiwan right now, if you have a disaster, for example, a car accident, if your competitors send an SNG and reported it live, you have the tremendous pressure to also send an SNG to report it live. So if from morning to night, I see a lot of timely news being repeated, but very few relevance being discussed, very few discussions, very few real insightful analysis. And in a large media environment in the United States, every hour of news program, when I was there in 1980s or early 1990s, every hour of news program, we spend out of pocket, that is net of personnel and other costs, we spend $400,000 out of pocket.
Why would you do that?
Because you need to have really great editorial work. You need to have every piece of news, if it's worthy, then you would have second report, third report, fourth report behind it to give it more depth. And if you take a very close look at Taiwan, most of the time on the hourly basis, we're reporting the same piece of news. We have a lot of repetition, but we don't have the second news, the second and the third and the fourth stories in our language. You have to go deeper. You have to expand beyond what you see as the phenomena. For example, a few days ago, a 71-year-old man made a major protest in front of the presidential palace, right?
Yeah.
So we have some people reporting why he was there. There was no second story, third story,
You're saying
fourth story.
the one who set himself on fire?
Right.
Okay.
So that's a very good example. If you decided to report that news, it is not just the act itself. Behind this act, there were so many threats.
Right.
And for a self-respecting news organization, you would go and try to trace those threats and try to make sure that you are making the right analysis, even the right criticism, so that the society can move towards a self-reforming direction. And that's the purpose of media. I see tremendous pressure, and therefore I don't fault those first-line people. Their bosses will say, look at XYZ station, they have this car accident, therefore you must have it. But year after year, day after day, we're only looking at repeated individual, sometimes disasters, sometimes individual success stories, but we don't have any force to move the society to the positive direction.
I understand you're actually still wearing quite many hats right now. Are you still in TV here in Taiwan?
Actually,
no.
Very well. I'm a board director.
Okay.
Because I've always been a media management person.
Okay.
So I still am a board director in a couple of different companies. I wear that hat to just help them move in the right corporate direction. But most of the time, the corporate direction has a very long distance from what you actually see on air.
Because I'm thinking about the things that you just shared. If you could even open a class, a course to teach all these media people
I do forum
the
all the
proper
time.
way to do
but
news.
Then they'll come to you and say, yes, I understand the proper way. But, my boss look at my ratings and then therefore I need to deliver.
The bosses need to take classes too.
Exactly right.
How do you think about Taiwan's TV covering international news?
Taiwan TV doesn't cover international news.
Yeah, this is really unfortunate. What do you think
Less
the
than
problem
1%.
is?
Well, this is, I'll share with you a story from my friends from the Netherlands. He said to me, Joanna, in Netherlands, we are also a small trading nation, which Taiwan was. Taiwan started being a trading nation. Then we started doing high-tech OEM because we needed to upgrade our own position in the worldwide trading floor. Now, he said in the Netherlands, everybody reads about 6 newspapers in the morning.
Okay.
We are a very small nation. We need to know what happens around us. So they will need 6 newspapers just to cover the world around them. Now, Taiwan deals with the entire world. We are proud to be a trading group of people. We go to Europe, we go to Africa, we go to South America, the United States, we go anywhere. But most of the people don't read any international news. Not at all. Not in the newspaper. Now I see one newspaper have probably 1 full page on international news. Some very small group of people read English newspaper in Taiwan. Very small group of people even watch CNN or NHK. Most of the people watch strictly domestic news.
Oh, well, that problem is one of the reason is that it's not an English-speaking country, Taiwan, and so I think what ways we can encourage Taiwanese people to polish up on the English, to speak English or learn the language. I mean, look at you. You're like English is like a mother tongue. So, what's your advice to Taiwanese people?
Just don't be scared. I think we study too hard. We study grammar too hard. We recite all the words. Languages do not exist in the level of words. You can recite the entire Japanese dictionary. You still don't know Japanese.
Yeah.
So you just needed to just do it. I think that's a very simple word, but very cliche. I hate to use cliche, but on the other hand, even if you don't know English, you still need to know the world. The world is what defines your existence. So I would just beg any of your audience who is watching this program, and hopefully you are a decision-making person in the media, to start just bringing the world back to Taiwan. When I was growing up, 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, you could say Taiwan could be a lot more isolated from the world. We still have a hostile situation across the Taiwan Straits. But when I was growing up, there were huge, at least compared to today, huge amount of international news. You know what's happening in the world, even though you don't know English. And sometimes Time, Newsweek, and those magazines got torn pages. If they reported Taiwan and someone didn't like it, the pages were torn. But still, you receive those information and you suck it up like a sponge. You try to figure out what the world is about, and then when you actually step out to the world, you are not a stranger. Today, I'm concerned about a lot of the young people. They are very deep into their own interested areas. If you like sports, you're very, very deep into sports. But when you step out of your comfort zone, when you try to start talking to the rest of the world, you are a stranger because you don't know who they are, what they do. You don't know what they think. Ask yourself, do I really know what happened to Thailand and Philippines? 2 nations around us which are currently experiencing turmoil. Do I understand what happened to India and Sri Lanka recently, Pakistan. Those are nearby places. Do you know even one leader's name? Most people say no.
Yeah. Well, we would agree that actually it hasn't been easy for Taiwan. Being a small island, we have so many TV stations and so many broadcasting stations, which is amazing. So there are things that Taiwan is, great, but I'm sure that, there are things too that Taiwan can really improve on. What do you think about Taiwan wanting so much to, globalize itself, to be noticed by the rest of the world? What things do you think Taiwan can still do? I mean, I think it's doing a lot. And as, for the last maybe couple of years, we've done a lot trying to promote our soft power, making ourselves seen and known. What else do you think Taiwan can do? Any advice, any recommendation?
I think we're in a totally different new era. This is a Web 3.0 era. Any individual, not even a country or a company, any individual can have huge influence to the rest of the world. You can put yourself on a new, boundaryless, countryless world and expose your inner thoughts and share that with a lot of people. You can expose your action. You can put whatever you believe in. So long as we started thinking ourselves as someone, not in a small, isolated island, we needed to have a very different self-image. We needed to take control of our lives. And we needed to say, we can be on the center stage. Whatever we're experimenting here, our lifestyle, way of belief, all the things can be shared with the rest of the world, and don't even for a moment think that you don't matter. We can matter, and we can step on the center stage without even have to go outside of your world. Yeah. I think even in your program, you don't have to go outside of your world. You don't have to go outside of your studio. With this amazing technology, we all have the ability to affect lives. So long as you set your heart straight and you set your course in the right direction, follow the true north.
All right. Well, thank you so much. It's been such a joy talking to you.
Thank you,
Learned
Shirley.
so much from you. Yeah. So wish you luck in everything that you do. Continue to shine in Taiwan, actually.
Continue to believe that I'm not just a small person.
Okay.
I think that's important. When I was a little girl living right next to your studio,
yeah.
My life is a life of a low-level naval officer's daughter. My life could be very restricted. Mm-hmm. The professor, Ray Birdwhistle, who's really very, very close to my heart,
yes.
He's a great scholar, said, there is something called talent mobility. I believe if you have a talent, you can be mobile in the world. In the internet world, you can be extremely mobile. So don't forget, there is something called talent mobility, and don't forget, in the Web 3.0 world, you can move around and share with the world what you believe in.
All right. Well, thank you, Joanna.
Thank you, Shirley.
Okay. Thank you for watching, people. I'm Shirley Lin.